Well, hello there, and a good evening to all of you out there. Welcome to Carving Up Live, right here on Facebook Live, YouTube, and Twitter. I hope everybody out there had a great holiday weekend, a great Christmas weekend. I certainly did. You know, last night, just in general, the weekend in general, it was just a perfect. It's perfect for me to come out and say, you know what? I won't say it. I'll let the Hall of Famer, the new Hall of Famer, Jimmy Johnson, say it for me.
How about them Cowboys? Yeah!
All right. You know, as you guys ever seen the movie The Nightmare Before Christmas, which to me is a Christmas movie, not a Halloween movie, but that's neither here nor there. Yeah, you guys ever seen that movie? And there's the Oogie Boogie Man. He says, well, what have we here? Oh, this is going to be a fun show for so many reasons. I get to talk about Dak balling. I get to talk about Mac Jones playing horrible again. I get to talk about my Warriors shorthanded, not according to LeBron, but shorthanded, beating the Phoenix Suns and as well as the Lakers' fifth straight loss, as well as Baker Mayfield stinking it up again. Although I kind of wish I was talking about something else in that regard, because that would mean the Cowboys would be the number one seed. And at the end of the show, I'll predict tonight's really big game between the Miami Dolphins and the New Orleans Saints. That's a big one on Monday Night Football for both teams. Both are just clinging to possibly being in a playoff spot. The Saints currently sit at the 7 seed. Or actually, no, they're out of the playoffs right now. They're at the 8 seed. Dolphins, same thing. If Miami wins, they're the 7 seed. If the Saints win, I believe they're the 7 seed as well in the NFC. So it's a big one tonight. But let's start with the Dallas Cowboys. In case you didn't watch that game last night, you missed a lot. You missed a lot of action. You missed a combined 70 points put up by both teams. Combined. 56 of those were put up by the Dallas Cowboys. That was the first game all season long. And Cowboy Nation, I think you will agree with me on this. That's the first game all season long that you have seen a complete complimentary football game in all three phases. Offense clicking right from the start. Defense doing their thing yet again. Yet another takeaway leading to a touchdown. And the special teams, we had our second blocked punt return for a touchdown of the season. And this goes back to something I've said. I will start with the quarterback, Dak Prescott. Of course, you guys know I don't think there's a bigger fan of Dak outside of like his family and friends than me. I wear his hat every single show almost. Matter of fact, shout out to my grandmother. Once again, I talked about it Friday. Got this little bobblehead of Dak, which, by the way, was in the living room. So maybe this is the good luck charm for the Cowboys moving forward. But I heard a lot these last few weeks. Oh, Dak's in a slump. He just ain't got it right now. When I said, yeah, against the Saints, I thought he was pretty good. Made some amazing throws in tight windows. Washington, the first Washington game, I'll give you. He was bad. I mean, horrible. I was like, what? I was like pulling my hair out. What are you doing, Dak? And then last week, people are like, oh, he's still in the slump. I'm like, no, he's just being a game manager. He doesn't need to be Patrick Mahomes or Aaron Rodgers or John Elway for the Cowboys to win last week over a bad Giants team. Just be a game manager. Distribute the ball. Be a point guard. Be a John Stockton. And yesterday, he showed you why I have always considered him, without a doubt, a top 10 quarterback and a fringe top 5 quarterback. Because you get the consistency. Yesterday, 28 for 39, 330 yards, 4 touchdowns, a QBR of 72, a passer rating of 131. So far today, I haven't heard the critics quite as loud. The volume's been turned down a bit, we could say. But Dak Prescott, as I'm about to show you the clip here, he was never in a slump.
Slump officially over for the offense?
You tell me. I never said we were in a slump. Those were your words, so I think it'd be hard for you to say that now. But yeah, tonight was great. Great performance by the offense, great performance by the team. I mean, scoring on all three phases, scoring by all the different ways that we did on offense. Great team win, great team effort.
This is a top 2 team in the NFC. and a top 3 team in the NFL. Because when you look at the NFC right now, I'm going to talk about the Packers later. I don't know. You've been impressed by Green Bay these last 3 weeks since the bye? I haven't. The Rams, if you want to give the Rams a slight edge of the Cowboys, I won't be mad at you because Matt Stafford was not good yesterday at all. But the defense and special teams were, and that's what makes the Rams a great team. If Matt Stafford played that way in Detroit, they lose by 30. He's with the Rams? No. We're talking about teams, not just quarterbacks. We're talking about teams. And Tampa Bay, yeah, they beat Carolina yesterday. Carolina is just an absolute train wreck right now. Okay, Tampa Bay did what they were supposed to do yesterday. The Cardinals, I don't know, they've lost 3 straight. I don't consider them in that same category as even the 4 teams I just mentioned. Out in the AFC, outside of Kansas City, nobody's better than Dallas. I mean, have you seen a performance this season by anybody as good or as impressive as the performance the Cowboys put on last night on national television, Sunday Night Football on NBC? No. So this is a team. Green Bay, don't let them get the number 1 seed. Don't let these Cowboys get that number 1 seed, because if they do, you give Mike McCarthy and that coaching staff, although I have my doubts about McCarthy, but you give that coaching staff an extra week to prepare for the Rams, the Cardinals, the Bucs, the Packers, you in some trouble. Because when you look at the impact players, they all showed up last night. Ezekiel Elliott was really good last night. Dak, that speaks for itself. Amari Cooper, all of last week. I need more targets. Well, you got him, and he was big time yesterday. Caught a touchdown before the end of the half to make it, 42-7 at halftime? Was it 42-7? I think it was. Yes, 42-7 at half. You got Jonathan Allen throwing punches at his former college teammate Daron Payne on the sideline. Now, some of that's just a dysfunctional Washington organization, but you see from this Cowboys team the firepower that they have. Defensively, Chris Collinsworth said it last night. You got some freaks on that defense. Micah Parsons, now he's got 13 sacks on the year. Randy Gregory, constantly getting to the quarterback. DeMarcus Lawrence, I don't know, did you see that pick 6? Looked pretty athletic to me. And so, Trayvon Diggs, yet another interception. That's 11, tying Everson Wall's 1981 record. This is a team, as Tom Landry once said, you want to get hot in December. Well, in December, all the complaints about the Dallas Cowboys, they're 4-0 in December. They're getting healthier in December. And with 2 games to go, so long as the Rams, do what they do. If the Cowboys win these last 2, they're guaranteed at least the 2 seed. And you do not want any part of this team in the postseason, because we know what Dak does in big games. When you absolutely need him most, this is what I've always respected about Dak Prescott. When you need him most, you know what you're going to get. Brilliance. The running game, I'll tell you what, Tony Pollard's got a torn plantar fascia in his foot. I can't tell. Now, obviously, I'm not saying he's lying about the injury. Of course not. But he looks great. Ezekiel Elliott looks good last night. Receivers, CeeDee Lamb, Amari Cooper, getting open. The offensive line still doesn't even have its left tackle, Tyron Smith. I've said on this show, and I think that's what the Cowboys are doing. Just rest him for the rest of the regular season. We know he's older. We know he's injury prone. Rest him for the rest of the regular season. Have him fresh and ready to go for the playoffs in mid-January. Defensively, you got the guy who I still say should be Defensive Player of the Year, Micah Parsons, a guy who's going to finish in the top 5 in that category, in Trayvon Diggs. A former Pro Bowler, DeMarcus Lawrence, who's showing shades of that former Pro Bowler, and a guy in Randy Gregory who very well may have made it to the Pro Bowl had he not gotten hurt with that calf injury about a month ago. But this is a team. It's hitting on all cylinders. There's nothing about this team. I have questions about the head coach, but there's nothing about this team that I don't like. Again, we talk about the best teams, the championship contending teams in the National Football League. We talk about what do they do best? What do they do best? And my question about the Dallas Cowboys is, what don't they do well? What are they not, dare I say, elite at? They're a great running team. They're a great passing team. They still got not the best offensive line. This is not 2014, but still an elite offensive line and an elite defense. So you got a big game next week against Arizona and Kyler Murray. They're sputtering. You should win that game at home. And honestly, Philadelphia at this point scares me more than Arizona. I swear to you. I mean, Philadelphia, man, they're getting hot at the right time as well. But Dallas is getting hot, healthier, and there's not a position on that field that I don't like for the Dallas Cowboys. Big time win last night against Washington and way to clinch the NFC East. Got a few comments here from Barry. He said, can't front. Dak did his thing. You dang right it is. And he did. And that's, Barry, we got a bet. And I think you should feel a little tense about Dak not getting the NFC Championship game. I told you he's going to. It's materializing right before your very eyes. He says, statement game is what we wanted to see. Bingo. That's what I said Friday. I said, I don't want to win over Washington. I want absolute domination. I didn't see 56-14 coming, but thank you. That was amazing. He said the Chiefs and the Cowboys are the best D-lines right now. Absolutely. Dallas's defensive line, honestly, it reminds me a little bit of that 49ers defensive line 2 years ago when they went to the Super Bowl, where they're just deep. They got D Ford. You've got Nick Bosa and Armstead, and you got some ballers up front. I mean, they're putting, and I got to give a lot of credit to Dan Quinn in this regard. They're swapping defensive linemen, right? They'll put Lawrence inside, or they'll have Micah Parsons come in on a blitz, or they'll put Micah Parsons as an outside pass rusher. Sometimes they'll put Gregory inside. Like the depth and the versatility that they have up front, not to mention Neville Gallimore, who I loved in the preseason before he got hurt. He's come back, and he's been a great run stopper, as he was last year in his rookie year. I mean, this is a defensive line, man. You make a good point, Barry. Cowboys, Chiefs defensive line, athletic, will push the best offensive lines around, can stop the run, can get to your quarterback. I'm telling you, man, this team's coming together. And it's a team I said would get to the NFC Championship game. And dare I say, maybe a little further. But I won't get too ahead of myself right now. We still got 2 weeks to go and still in the chase for that number 1 seed. Now let us transition to another huge game yesterday in the AFC East. The New England Patriots at Foxborough, at home, Gillette Stadium, hosting the Buffalo Bills, who they beat just a few weeks ago at Buffalo. And you've got a situation where the winner is in first place in the division, and especially for New England, if they win, they got a 2-game lead with 2 games to go. The division will be a wrap. For Buffalo, you win this game, you're tied with New England, and you have the tiebreaker, so you'll be in first place. And let's just say Mac Jones once again got exposed. If he doesn't have the run game, if the defense isn't perfect, if Belichick doesn't have the perfect game plan, it absolutely falls apart. That's 3 straight weeks now where he's not looked good. I told you, when the media and everybody, Patriots Nation, is starting to fall in love with Mac Jones, he's the next Tom Brady. Oh, I've heard that for weeks. Heck, I've heard that before he played a single snap in the NFL. I told you it's nonsense. For a multitude of reasons. Mac cannot move around. But Tom Brady couldn't. It was a different league back then. And Tom Brady, as I always say, the great outlier. Don't compare any quarterback to Tom, because you're going to lose every time. And something else on Mac Jones that I said, let these defensive coordinators get film on him. Then we'll see how good he is. And they got film. And a few games ago against Buffalo, the first meeting, he threw three passes. Matter of fact, he shouldn't have even thrown one of them because he audibled out of a play. So Belichick trusts Mac Jones so much that he threw 3 passes. And then a couple weeks later, off a bye, he was bad against the Indianapolis Colts. Against a Carson Wentz who threw for 58 yards. Mac Jones still lost the game. And then yesterday, in the Patriots' biggest game, probably since Tom's last game, that wild card matchup when they lost to Tennessee and what ended up being Tom Brady's last game as a Patriot. Biggest game of the year for the Patriots. You win this game, the division is virtually over. You will be guaranteed a home playoff game. 2 weeks ago, the Patriots were the number 1 seed in the AFC. 2 weeks later, they're the 6th seed. When you look around all 8 divisions in the NFL, what do they all have in common except for one? They have a special quarterback. Not a good quarterback, not even a special quarterback leading the show. You look at the NFC North, Aaron Rodgers. Come on. He's the greatest quarterback talent we've ever seen. NFC South, Tom Brady, GOAT. NFC East, Dak, multiple division titles, outstanding quarterback. NFC West, Matt Stafford. Yes, he didn't play well yesterday, but I saw those games against the Cardinals and the Seahawks in the fourth quarter last week. Like, Matt Stafford wins big games when you give him the support he needs, which Detroit didn't for 12 years. Look at the AFC. Mahomes, unbelievable MVP. You look at the AFC North. Joe Burrow threw for 500 yards yesterday. You look at the AFC, what am I looking at? The AFC North, South, AFC South. Ryan Tannehill, not special, but good, right? He's good. He's won playoff games. He's won playoff games in the NFL. And then finally, in the AFC East, it's Josh Allen, who is special. Rocket arm, wildly athletic. His accuracy has improved year after year after year. Special quarterbacks win divisions and ultimately championships. Not guys throwing 3 passes, and not guys who, in the biggest game of the season against the Buffalo Bills, 14 for 32, 145 yards, 0 touchdowns, 2 interceptions, a QBR of 39, a passer rating of 31. But that's the guy who's going to be the next Tom Brady, is what I've heard. Mac ain't it. It's a little different when receivers aren't running 20 yards open down the field at Alabama, isn't it? The Patriots are going to make the playoffs. They are. Belichick is arguably the coach of the year. Matter of fact, I still think he's the front runner for that particular award. Their defense, though in a slump, I think they'll get it back together. I think. But once you get to the postseason, you play special quarterbacks. And Mac Jones does not fare very well against special quarterbacks. And that's what's going to get the Patriots beat when it's all said and done. Yes, this has been a successful season for New England. Probably not going to win the division now, in large part due to your quarterback, but you're going to get in the playoffs, and you're going to lose to either Cincinnati, which is crazy to say Cincinnati's probably going to win a playoff game at this point, the way they're clicking offensively. You might lose to Tennessee once they get Derrick Henry back. Like, it's okay, Patriots Nation. You had your time. You won 6 championships over the course of 2 decades, led by the greatest player in NFL history. It's over. You'll get to some playoffs with Mac. You will. So long as you got the supporting cast. They run the football well. I mean, heck, Mac Jones got basically 150 yards rushing yesterday. That game was on a silver platter. And Josh Allen said, thank you very much. And Mac Jones said, I don't want no part of this. I've tried to tell people, this is not a special quarterback. This is a backup. He's a backup. Heck, I even said in the draft, I liked Davis Mills better than Mac Jones. How'd Davis Mills look yesterday against the Chargers, albeit missing some starters? He looks pretty darn good to me. Not saying Davis Mills is special, but he's better than Mac Jones. It's kind of a joke at this point. He's not a special quarterback. He's not a special player. Under Bill Belichick, sure, you'll get to the playoffs. But that's about it. He's not winning any playoff games. And that's the fate of the New England Patriots. You get out to a lead, he's in the game manager role every single Sunday. Sure, you can win some games. We saw that during their, 7-game winning streak. But you put him in tight windows. You say, well, he's a rookie. Yeah, so was Justin Herbert last year, and Joe Burrow last year, and a year before that, Kyler Murray, and the year before that, Lamar Jackson, and heck, even Baker Mayfield. And the year before that, Deshaun Watson, you can tell pretty quickly if a guy works or not. You can tell after about 5, 6, 7 starts, once coordinators get film on these guys, like, yeah, he's the guy. They found him. The Patriots have not found their guy. Mac is a backup. It's that simple. Got a few comments here. Oh, Lord. Barry Grant Jr., who's a huge Mac Jones fan. I believe in Michael McCorkle Jones. By the way, that is Mac Jones' real name, Michael McCorkle Jones. He's a rookie and is learning these last tough games. Mac will be better for these struggles. Mac will be an above average, if not borderline special, come year 5. If you need to know by year 5 if a guy is special, you got the wrong guy. You got the wrong guy. Justin Herbert, we knew after like 2-3 starts, oh my, this guy's amazing. Patrick Mahomes, after like 2 weeks, we were like, holy cow, he's unbelievable. Come on. John says, who? I guess John's also referring to Mac. By the way, John, I got to give a shout out to and this is not a guy I've kind of jumped off the bandwagon for this particular player, but Zach Wilson. He was good yesterday. He's against Jacksonville, but he was good. He had that long touchdown run, made some good throws, won the game. Hey, I give credit where credit's due. He says Mac right now is better than Baker. I'll give you that. I'll give you he's better than Baker Mayfield. I'm talking about Baker's rookie year. Like initially we were like, oh shoot, the Browns may have found their guy. And then as time wore on, it's like, yeah, Baker's not that dude. And I'm going to talk about Baker and the Browns, the Packers, the Christmas Day showdown later in the show. But for the Patriots, and I've talked about this not year after year, but show after show after show this season and in previous NFL seasons, you can build the perfect roster, which the Patriots don't have. They have a good roster, not a perfect one, but you can build the perfect roster. But if you don't have that guy, there's only so far you can go. This is why I have some reservations, not for the Colts as far as winning playoff games. And I don't want to poo-poo on their parade because, Carson Wentz was amazing against the Cardinals on Christmas evening. But can Carson Wentz make that play in that game? I'm skeptical. Listen, I'm willing to admit I'm wrong if it happens. But Joe Burrow, I've seen him make those plays. And Patrick Mahomes, I've seen him make those plays. And Josh Allen and Dak and Brady and Rodgers. I've seen Big Ben this year. He was horrible yesterday. But Big Ben at points this year, I've seen him make that play in that big game. I have not seen Mac Jones do that one time this year. He's a rookie. Yeah. I've seen some rookies that have looked pretty darn good right off the bat. And some have fizzled out. Look at Vince Young. But for the most part, they tend to stick around for a while. And the Patriots doing what they do, they're going to win games. Belichick's amazing. The defense will get it together. I have faith in that. They're going to continue to run the ball well. But in the fourth quarter, when it comes down, Mac played terrible through 3 quarters. But, hey, it's a one-score game. You're at home. It's there for the taking. Nope. Not that guy. Let's move to the NBA for a second. This is going to be so fun. Let's move to the NBA for just a second. I'm telling you, this was such a great weekend sports-wise for me. It was such a great Christmas present. I'm not even going to lie to y'all. Because, of course, my Warriors won. We beat Phoenix. What was it? 115-106, I think was the final score. Let me check. Yeah, 116-107. I'm sorry. I remember it was a 9-point win. 116-107. Warriors won over the Phoenix Suns. It was a wildly entertaining game. Went back and forth until Otto Porter just basically won the game by himself in the last 2 minutes. And Golden State won the game, and now they're in possession of the number 1 seed in the Western Conference as of right now. And so there were some other games. The Milwaukee-Boston game was crazy. Milwaukee made a huge comeback. Boston once again kind of collapsed. And then the first and last games, they were tough to watch just for the fact that you had a lot of replacement players out there. Obviously, COVID, Omicron spreading like crazy. You had these replacement players coming in with this new plan by the NBA, which I think is a great plan. Look, the virus is spreading like crazy. And like I said, Adam Silver, good on you, best commissioner in sports. Don't pause the season like hockey. Just have teams sign replacement players. And I think the plan has worked. We haven't had any postponed games in a few days, so we're doing pretty good. But let's talk about those Los Angeles Lakers for just a moment, because they lost to the Brooklyn Nets by a score of 122 to 115. They made a furious comeback in the fourth quarter. I was about ready to turn that game off, and I was like, oh, this is a game now. And they go from down 23 to tying it with, I think, 2 minutes left, maybe more or less 2 minutes. And the Brooklyn Nets kind of made the big plays that they needed to at the end of the game. Of course, we saw the Claxton dunk on LeBron. James Harden makes some big free throws down the stretch. He made up for what was a horrible fourth quarter by him. And Patty Mills, man, phew. When Kevin Durant and Kyrie are out, that guy has proven he could step up. And listen, he's playing some big games in his NBA career. You saw what he did with the Spurs, especially in 2014, making all those threes. I remember that finals. I was like, man, he's not good. It's awesome. He isn't going to make or miss a three against the Miami Heat in the 2014 finals. But all Patty Mills did was drop 34 points, 11 for 17, and 8 for 13 from three. He was outstanding. And James Harden, at least up until the fourth quarter, was outstanding himself. He dropped 36 points on 10 for 25 shooting, 3 for 8 from three. And he had a triple-double, 10 rebounds, 10 assists. So James Harden showed you that, hey, he can still step up for you when your best players are out. My concerns about Harden have always been, what's he going to do in the playoffs? And I still have reservations in that regard. But as for the Lakers, this is now 5 straight losses. They're 16-18, 2 games below 500. And in this stretch, LeBron has been outstanding. He's averaging 31 points. I think in the last 8 games, he's leading the NBA in scoring. And the Lakers in that stretch are 3-5. And so you have sort of a pattern here of the Lakers find different ways to lose. On Saturday evening, Christmas night, it was bad defense throughout the game, digging themselves a hole, and over the course of the game, and I told y'all before the season started, Russell Westbrook. He got his triple-double, by the way. He got his triple-double, so everybody can just put their head on the pillow at night. Russell Westbrook got his triple-double, shooting 4 for 20 and 0 for 3 from three-point range. This is who he is. It is. LeBron, once again, was outstanding. 39 points, 9 rebounds, 7 assists, was efficient from the field, and was 3 for 9 from three-point range. Made a big one in the fourth quarter. I said before the season, LeBron was the only thing I liked about this team. And even him, is he going to stay healthy? That's my question with LeBron is, he's 37 in 3 days. Can he stay healthy? Anthony Davis, we know he's made of glass. Russell Westbrook, he's as tough as they come. He plays through almost anything. But you have a lot of nights like this. A lot of nights where he's shooting 20% from the field and 0% from three-point range. This is who the Lakers are. And barring just a roster overhaul, which I don't know how that's going to happen. They got some bad contracts in that team, chief among them all, Russell's. But barring a roster overhaul, this team may not even get out of the first round. Listen, I'm going to bet on LeBron James to get them to the playoffs. I hear people say, oh, the Lakers are going to miss the playoffs. I don't know. They may end up in the play-in, but they're not going to miss the playoffs, guys. 8 teams are not going to be better than a LeBron James-led Lakers team in the Western Conference. I'm going to bet on LeBron in that regard. But, and I said this about 2 weeks ago, I think it was, 2-3 weeks ago, a month or so ago, some point in the season, I said the Lakers, if they matched up against the Phoenix Suns or the Golden State Warriors, they would get swept. They can't even compete with either of those two teams. I'm watching that game. This is the 3rd time the Warriors and Suns have played. They play 4 times a year because they're in the same division, in the Pacific Division, in the Western Conference. I'm watching that game, and I'm like, these are the 2 best teams. Like, Milwaukee is the only other team, at least out east, that I fear. Brooklyn's going to be Brooklyn. Kevin Durant's going to be amazing, but James Harden's going to choke in the playoffs, and Kyrie won't be available for home games. You know? I mean, that's the thing with Kyrie, and you worry about his durability as well. Although Patty Mills may be a legit problem now. But for Golden State, they're deep. They showed that yet again. Phoenix is deep. Both teams play great defense. Both teams play very fast, which the Lakers are not good against teams, who play up-tempo, fast basketball because they're old. That's the Lakers' reality. And I said this, I saw this on Twitter. I'm like, he didn't really say that. And then I watched the video. It's true. Here's what LeBron James had to say about this Lakers losing streak and about two Western Conference contemporaries.
But nobody's going to feel sorry for you. Nobody's going to feel sorry for our record, or nobody's going to feel sorry for guys out, because everybody, besides, I think, like Golden State and Phoenix, everybody has guys out.
Golden State and Phoenix. As of today, the Suns have Monty Williams, their head coach, Elfrid Payton, Jay Crowder, and DeAndre Ayton. That's two starters and their head coach who are in COVID protocols. For my Warriors, they now have 3 starters and protocols, a future star who's not quite ready to come back from his injury, and another guy who's probably going to start who's not ready to come back from his injury. Those would be, Andrew Wiggins and Jordan Poole and Klay Thompson and James Wiseman and Andre Iguodala and Moses Moody and Damian Lee, and the list goes on. And now Draymond Green is in COVID protocols. Excuse after excuse after painfully awkward excuse. Forget championship team. I don't know if this team's going to get out of the first round. I'm serious. And I got a few comments here from Barry Grant Jr., who's a big Laker fan, talking about the game. He said Russ goes out and they go on a great run. Yes, they did. Russ goes out in the beginning of the fourth quarter. Stanley Johnson, who I was like, damn, look at Stanley Johnson out there playing great defense. They make that run. LeBron comes back in. They continue the great run, and they get right back in the basketball game. And all of a sudden, you're looking up with 2 minutes left, and you're like, holy cow, the Lakers may actually win this one. He says they cannot overcome him, talking about Russ. It may be time to just cut bait, and I'm okay with getting back whatever for him. I'm sorry for the rant. Bronze teams played a slow pace. This Lakers team leads the league in pace. The championship year, they were 11th. It's all the Russ effect. And that's the thing. It's kind of a pattern. I mean, you remember I talked about Urban Meyer when he got fired a couple weeks ago, and I said, if there's always a controversy everywhere you're at, eventually, who's the common denominator? There's controversies at Florida, at Ohio State, in Jacksonville. Urban Meyer's the common denominator. And so when you look at Russell Westbrook, every team he leaves, they instantly get better. Because when you look at the Oklahoma City Thunder, they trade him in the offseason of 2019. He reunites with with James Harden. And what did the Thunder do? They get Chris Paul. They're the 5 seed. The season prior, they were 6 seed. They're the 5 seed with Chris Paul and a bunch of kids. And Chris Paul didn't have Paul George with him. Russell Westbrook did. CP3 almost leads the Thunder to the second round of the playoffs. Think about that. He almost leads Lou Dort and I like this kid, but Shai Gilgeous-Alexander to the second round in the Western Conference. That's how good Chris Paul was. He was in the MVP race at that point. He goes to Houston. He leaves. But to be fair, they traded James Harden. Houston's not great. Okay, he goes to Washington. Yes, they make the playoffs. Yes, they're the 8th seed, and they win a game over Philadelphia, albeit it was a game 4 when they were down 3-0. All of a sudden, you look a year later, and the Washington Wizards have been through a slump, and they're still sitting at the 7th seed with guys like Kyle Kuzma and Bradley Beal, who's been out as of late, Montrezl Harrell, guys like that who have really stepped up. Everywhere Russ leaves, they get instantly better. Everywhere he goes, they get instantly worse. I mean, the Lakers had their issues last year, but one thing I'll say about them, they were still really good defensively. Matter of fact, they were number 1 in the league defensively. See, look at now, old roster, doesn't fit. I mean, it's kind of like, what did I say in the offseason? The one move the Lakers made that I was like, okay, I actually kind of like that move. Malik Monk. Because I'm like, he's a shooter. LeBron loves shooters. We know that. And he was really, Saturday night, he was really all the Lakers had off the bench. He He was really good. He dropped 28 for 13 for the field and hit 3-pointers. Malik Monk was good. I said Malik Monk will help LeBron. He's a shooter. He's gotten better and better from 3-point range. Remember him back in Charlotte, the consistent improvement from 3-point range. He fits with LeBron. But Melo picking up tees, playing bad defense, Russ missing dunks, and LeBron saying that the Warriors and the Suns are the only teams who haven't had to deal with COVID, which is not true, that both teams are starting to get a little ravaged with COVID and injuries. Excuse after excuse after excuse. It doesn't work. And I hear people saying today, well, it's not LeBron's fault because he's playing well. On the court, LeBron himself, no, he's really not the reason they're losing these games. LeBron individually, he's not the reason they're losing these games. He's playing out of his mind. He's playing great. But he deserves some blame. He wanted Russell Westbrook. They had a deal in place to go get Buddy Hield, who would have worked amazing with LeBron James. I mean, Buddy Hield's a top 5 shooter in the league right now. Top 5. You think he wouldn't work with LeBron? It would have been a beautiful relationship between those two on the hardwood. They had a deal in place to go get Buddy Hield, who's not as good as Russell Westbrook. We all know that. But LeBron wanted Russ. And he wanted Melo. And Dwight Howard and DeAndre Jordan and Rondo. Old. He bears some responsibility for this failed season thus far, too. They're 34 games in. We're not even halfway through the NBA season. Again, I said maybe they'll turn it around in January. I said that before the year. Give it till January. Maybe they'll turn it around. Maybe they'll be viable. But championship? It's like Jim Moore. Playoffs? We're talking about playoffs? Championship? How about we talk about maybe getting out of the first round? Heck, avoiding the play-in, maybe. Maybe we can set that goal for the Lakers. They play Phoenix in the playoffs, or they play Golden State. They're getting swept. They're not winning a game against either of those teams. They're faster, better defense, not as old a roster, veterans, young players, better coach. I'm sorry. They're not competing with either of those teams. Heck, even Utah. Can they beat Utah? I don't trust Utah in the playoffs like you do, like you guys don't either, but they're deeper than the Lakers, and they have a better coach than the Lakers. I'm sorry. This team is not, this ain't it. John says they're going to be just fine, and Melo has been, let's see. Yeah, Melo has been good with the Lakers. He has, and he's been better than I thought he'd be. But as far as once we get to the postseason, you worry about him on the defensive end. You worry about the fact that, what are you getting night to night from Melo? Which you say, well, he's come off the bench. That happens. Bench players tend to be fairly inconsistent. That's fine, right? But with this team, when you have one star player who shoots 20%, Russell Westbrook, you have LeBron, who's going to be great, and you have Anthony Davis, who, when he's at his best, he's unstoppable. But how many times is he at his best? So I feel like they're relying more on Melo than you would think they should be, but that's a reality right now. Barry says a book of stamps will suffice with Russ. And John says, I'll put money they're not getting swept. Again, I'm not saying swept in general. I'm saying by those two teams, Phoenix, Golden State. Either of those two teams, they're getting swept by them. Now, Jazz, I'd give the Jazz the slight edge over the Lakers, but they would not sweep them. They would not sweep the Lakers, or Denver wouldn't sweep them. Or who else we got in the Western Conference? Memphis, they might, I don't know. Memphis, I don't know what to make of them. I mean, obviously, I liked the Grizzlies more than anybody this season. They've kind of lived up to it. Like, John Morant's doing his thing. He was out. They still played well. He's back. They're still playing well. So, Memphis Lakers would be an interesting series. I don't know who I'd give the edge to. Probably the Lakers, but it's kind of a higher register, like, maybe. But they play the Suns. They play the Warriors. Forget about it. They're not winning a game against those two teams. Suns and Warriors not sweeping the Lakers. We'll see. Let's see if they even get to those teams. Because as it stands right now, it's Golden State and Phoenix atop the West, with Utah coming in at third. And Utah, look, they're 3.5 games behind Golden State. I'm not ruling out them possibly if they get on a run, and if maybe Golden State and Phoenix go through a little slide here with the COVID issues. Maybe the Jazz get the number 1 seed for the second straight year. Maybe it happens. But this Lakers team ain't it. I told y'all this summer, it ain't going to work. But it ain't working. I hate to tell you that. Not really. Let's move on to Christmas Day. The NFL, man, they've caught on to something. They won't let the NBA have their day. Like the NBA, like for years, we're like, okay, the NFL's popular, especially once we get to December and January and these big late season and playoff games. But the NBA, it's kind of like Christmas is our day, right? It's our day. We get the big marquee games, the best players playing on Christmas. And the NFL's like, no, you can't even have that either. So they put 2 games on Christmas Day. You got a big one between the Browns and the Packers that's played that afternoon at Lambeau Field. And then later that night, you've got a very intriguing matchup between the Colts and the Cardinals, and the Packers and Colts win those 2 games respectively. But I'll probably touch on the Colts and Cardinals as I review week 16 a little later in the show. But let me focus especially on Packers and Browns. And so there's takeaways I got from both teams. Number one, it's not even time for Cleveland to have a come to Jesus moment. It's because a come to Jesus moment is just kind of accepting the reality that something just doesn't work the way you thought it would. We knew that like a year ago with Baker Mayfield. It's flat out cut bait. Get rid of him. The Cleveland Browns on Saturday afternoon in Green Bay, Wisconsin. Ladies and gentlemen, we knew they were a good running team. They ran for 219 yards. 219 yards against the Green Bay Packers. Now, again, I'll get to Green Bay in a second. Baker Mayfield, and I usually don't say this about players. Like one guy or one play. I'm not that type of dude. But in this case, it applies. Baker Mayfield single-handedly lost the Browns that game. If Case Keenum starts, Cleveland wins. They do. 4 picks. That should have been 5. 4 that should have been 5. They had 1 that was dropped. The one that should have been the 4th was dropped. And then of course, and Browns fans say, well, Donovan Peoples-Jones was held. He was very much held. I absolutely agree. But it should have never come down to that. When people say, oh, blame the refs, I'm like, yeah, but you got to look early in the game. Baker threw 3 picks. And the Browns moved all afternoon on Green Bay. Went up and down the field, up and down, ran it down their throats. And Baker would throw a pick in the red zone. He'd sail it over Jarvis Landry, or he'd miss Jarvis on the left sideline. Like it was always something. And Baker, by the way, had a passer rating of 55. And again, threw 4 picks. He's not it. Cleveland, you opted into the 5th year, trade him. There'll be a team out there that'll be like, hey, let's take Baker Mayfield. Because maybe when he's healthy, he'll be that guy. But I've told you for the Browns, this is why I said on, Thursday, that when Cleveland lost that close game at the buzzer, game-winning field goal against the Las Vegas Raiders, and people are like, oh, if Baker had played, it would have been a different outcome. I said, no, it wouldn't have. First of all, Nick Mullins is competent. I mean, he's no star. He's not a starter in the NFL, but he's competent, right? Like, if you need one game, Nick Mullins can play well enough for you. But in that game, he didn't turn the ball over. He was efficient, good completion percentage. Browns ran the ball well. That looks like just a typical Cleveland Browns loss. They don't get enough in the quarterback position, but you're not expecting a ton from Nick Mullins. You're not. He's a guy. Baker's also a guy. The problem is he was the number 1 pick in the draft 3.5 years ago. That's the problem for the Browns. That's what they got to deal with. And so this offseason, there's a guy who maybe isn't that happy in Green Bay right now. And there's a guy in Seattle who's definitely not happy right now with his organization. And you guys know who I'm talking about. Go after those 2. This Browns roster and this Browns coaching staff is too flipping good for an arrogant, undersized, immobile, inaccurate, without a big arm quarterback wasting it. The Browns ran for over 200 yards. Nick Chubb, Dearness Johnson, they're running all over Green Bay. Baker handed that game to the Packers. Plain and simple. And so you look at Cleveland, elite defense. Defense last year was good. Like the Browns had a good defense, but not a great one. This year they got a great defense. 21. Okay. 21 of the Packers' 24 points on Saturday came off Baker Mayfield interceptions. Think about that. 21 of the 24. They ran the ball well. They did a good job defensively. That defense kept them in the game. The defense in the running game kept Cleveland in the game. And Kevin Stefanski, people are railing Kevin Stefanski. What, he forget how to coach? Did he? I mean, he did win Coach of the Year last year. Did he just forget how to coach football? Of course not. This is a quarterback problem. This has everything to do with Baker Mayfield. This is, again, I'm not an all or nothing guy. I'm not that type of guy. I'm not somebody who blames one person for everything. Like I just talked about the Lakers. There's blame to go around. The Browns, it's one guy. It's one guy who's holding them back from being a great, not just a great team, a championship contending team. It's Baker Mayfield. What did I talk about with Mac Jones earlier? You could put together the perfect roster. Perfect. And the Patriots don't have a perfect roster, but it's good. Cleveland has a perfect roster. Great running backs, very good receiving core, great, like top, maybe the best offensive line in football. Great defense led by a guy who's going to be in the running once again for Defensive Player of the Year, Myles Garrett, and the Coach of the Year. If you just throw that out there, elite defense, elite offensive line, elite running game, and very good receiving talent, and a great coach, I just said, oh boy, this team's going to make some noise this season. They're 7-8. They're 7-8 because they don't have a good quarterback. They're 7-8 because they have a backup. Baker's a backup. It's that simple. He's not good. I mean, this season, Baker Mayfield this season, 15 touchdowns, 11 picks, a QBR of 37, and he's 24th in passing yards as well. He's not that guy. You've got two. It's hard. Man, it's hard to build a great roster. And the Browns, to their credit, have built one. They've been dysfunctional for decades. They got the roster. They don't have the quarterback. You can have the perfect roster. If you don't have that guy, there's only so far you can go. I've talked about this ad nauseum on this show. So, Cleveland, you got a decision to make. Are you going to be okay with being average with great talent? Or are you going to be aggressive like the Los Angeles Rams? The Rams had a great roster and a great coach and a good quarterback. And Jared Goff's way better than Baker Mayfield, too. A good quarterback. They said, no, we want a great quarterback. At least a quarterback we believe can be great. And so they go out and get Matthew Stafford. And what do you know? The Rams, in what is probably the toughest division in football, are in first place and are still in the running for the NFC's top seed. Browns can be okay with good. I've talked about this in this show. I use the Emmanuel Acho quote. The greatest enemy to great is good. The greatest enemy to great is not bad. Because if you're bad, you don't want to be bad anymore. You're motivated to be better than bad. Good, you're satisfied, right? You're like, yeah, great. Being great would be great, but at least I'm not bad. The Browns for years, they have a low self-esteem, really, if you think about it. The Browns for 2 decades have been the laughingstock of the NFL. And now that they're good, they're satisfied. But the aggressive teams, the Rams and Dallas and the Chiefs, they're going to be aggressive. They're going to swing big in the draft. They're going to go get that franchise quarterback. They're going to pay him. If the Browns pay Baker Mayfield, good night. You're signing up for a bunch of 6 and 7 win seasons just like this one. That's the realization they have to come to. A comment from, let's see, I don't know what that is. So let's move to the Packers. Now, the Packers are 12-3. They have the best record in football. They're the 1 seed as of now in the NFC. That's all good and well. But, I'm not going to say like, oh, this isn't a Super Bowl team. I'm not going to say that. But when I watch them, this does not, the eye test, we talk about the eye test, I don't see special. I see a special quarterback and a special receiver. Of course, Aaron Rodgers, Devontae Adams, they're outstanding. But we talk about the Cowboys in December. They got a statement win. Washington, they just crushed them. This is why I worry a little bit about Tampa Bay. They kind of sputtered in December. Kansas City, yeah, they beat the Steelers by 30 points, right? And Pittsburgh's no joke. Pittsburgh has limitations at quarterback, but they won by 30. They beat the Chargers in a comeback win on the road against Justin Herbert. Chiefs have some statement wins. Heck, the Titans have a statement win. Nobody thought they could beat San Francisco, and they did. Where's the Packers' statement win in the last few weeks? What has been impressive about the Packers in the last few weeks? Because since that bye, I remember they beat the Rams on that Sunday evening game in Green Bay. It's America's Game of the Week on Fox. They dominate the Rams, and I said the next day on the show, I hate to say it, but that's the best team in the NFL. Since then, I have not seen that same team. They struggled against the Bears. They gave up 30 points to the Chicago Bears. A week after that, they beat Tyler Huntley by 1 point. Tyler Huntley. Good kid. Nice player. You gave up 30 points to Tyler Huntley and won by a single point. And on Saturday, against a Baker Mayfield, who for Christmas, he was very generous for Christmas. He gave you 4 takeaways. And at home, you won by 2. The Packers, as far as yards per carry, are 31st, second to last in the NFL. They also have a point differential of 59. It's coming. This is a one-and-done team. I don't know if it's going to be in the first round against Philadelphia. Because look, Philadelphia, like Cleveland, boy, do they run the football. Who do you trust more, Baker Mayfield or Jalen Hurts? I'm going to take Jalen Hurts from this one. I'm not even a big Jalen Hurts guy. I'll take him over Baker Mayfield. Jalen Hurts wins that game on Saturday evening, without a question. Most quarterbacks do. Jalen Hurts is one of those quarterbacks. They can't stop the run. Unless it's Rodgers and Adams, they kind of struggle to get big plays down the field. And defensively, oh yeah, they got the takeaways. Rasul Douglas, yeah, he's hit some pass thrown right to him. I'd hope he catches it. So the Packers, they may get the number 1 seed. They may not. Who knows? We'll see over these next 2 weeks. That team is not beating Dallas. That team, you give Sean McVay a second crack at the Packers? You think we're going to see the same result we saw in late November? I beg to differ. And Tampa's, they're not playing well right now. They played well yesterday, but overall in December, we haven't seen that same Bucs team or even any semblance of that same Bucs team that, as we sit here today, are the defending Super Bowl champions. But this is Tom Brady we're talking about. Like, remove all variables. It's Tom Brady and Aaron Rodgers. And Aaron Rodgers, talent-wise, since he came into the league to this very day, is better than Tom Brady talent-wise. But when the game's on the line in the fourth quarter, who do you trust? Aaron Rodgers or Tom Brady? Because they'll both have opportunities in the fourth quarter, should they match up, whether it's at Lambeau, whether it's at Raymond James in Tampa. Who do you trust? Because I saw Tom Brady go 2-0 against Aaron Rodgers last year. Matter of fact, I saw Tom Brady throw 3 picks in the second half against the Packers last year. Aaron did almost nothing with those takeaways that his defense got him. I'm not saying the Packers aren't a Super Bowl team. I'm not going to go there. They're a very good team, but this has reminded me a lot of the 2019 Packers. Remember, they won 13 games or 13-3. They got a first-round bye, and they beat Seattle in that playoff game. And then they ran into a physical team in San Francisco, and they got pushed all over the field. The game was over at halftime. The game was over at halftime. I don't trust Green Bay. I don't trust the quarterback in the postseason. He's got a losing record. He's 7-8 since that Super Bowl win in Arlington, Texas, over a decade ago. He also is 1-4 in NFC Championship games. That one win came against, let me see, Caleb Haney. You ever heard of Caleb Haney? Me neither. That's who his one NFC Championship win comes against. 7-8, 1-4 in NFC Championship games. Tom Brady has 7 rings. I hate to tell you, Packer Nation, it's coming. It is coming. You are struggling in December. Bad. The quarterback hands you 4 picks and you win by 2. And that last interception could have easily been negated by a holding penalty. Could have easily lost that game. And so the Packers from here on out, they play the Vikings at home on a Sunday night game next week. Of course, I'll be doing skull. Let's go Minnesota. I don't envision Minnesota winning that game at Lambeau because I know what Kirk Cousins does in primetime games, and that's nothing. But I'm starting to get a feeling maybe Detroit pulls it off. I'm dead serious with y'all. I got a feeling maybe the Detroit Lions pull the upset of the season. We got a long way to go. But I'm telling you, man, those Lions, Dan Campbell, the kneecap biters, man, they may pull it off.
Kneecap.
That may be what happens a couple weeks from now. There may be a lot of kneecaps being bitten off. Not literally, figuratively. As Dan Campbell talked about in his press conference his opening press conference as the Lions head coach. But I don't trust Green Bay. This is the 3rd straight postseason where we're going in, and I don't trust them. I trust Dallas more. I trust the Rams more. And I don't necessarily trust Tampa more. I just trust Tom Brady more. And I trust Bruce Arians more than I trust Matt LaFleur. Matt LaChoke is what my man Barry called Matt LaFleur this past Thursday when he was on the show. That's what he is. He panics in big moments. He's a good game planner. I'll give him that. Matt LaFleur is a really good game planner. But in the biggest of moments, do you trust him to make that big call on that 3rd down or 4th down, kicking a field goal down 8 with 2 minutes to go in the NFC Championship game last year? I'm just saying. All right, let's look at the rest of the games in Week 16 of the NFL before I get to my prediction for tonight's really big game between the Miami Dolphins and the New Orleans Saints. I'm actually kind of looking forward to this game. I think it's going to be very interesting. So, looking around the NFL, you had the Colts beating the Cardinals in the second Christmas Day game. Carson Wentz, for my criticisms of him, he's been good in the second half of the season. He's adjusted to the Frank Reich system. That's the same Frank Reich system that almost won Carson an MVP 4 years ago before he got hurt. But on that big 3rd down, Colts are up 15-13, 4th quarter, and Carson Wentz throws a dime in the end zone. It was one of the best throws I've seen all season for the touchdown that gave the Colts a 2-score lead, a lead that they would never relinquish. Indianapolis is now 9-6. They've got, I think, like an 80-something% chance to get in the playoffs. Of course, they're going to get in. And I've been saying for about a month, after I saw the way they played Tampa Bay, a healthy Tampa Bay, I was like, oh boy, you don't want any part of this team. And Jonathan Taylor is still dominating. Carson Wentz is playing turnover-free football. As for Arizona, this is 3 straight losses, and they've gone from being the number 1 seed a few weeks ago. Now they're the 5 seed. And they got to play Dallas next week on the road. So that's going to be an interesting game. I can't wait for it. But Arizona, man, I don't know what's going on with y'all. You had the Lions falling to the Falcons. It was a crazy game that came down the wire, but you had Atlanta getting a big defensive stop in the red zone to hang on 20-16. And hey, Atlanta, for all their issues, they're still in the hunt. They're 7-8. They basically they're a game back or half game back. A game back of the Philadelphia Eagles. Unfortunately for Atlanta, Philadelphia beat them in Week 1 of the NFL season. Goes to show you, man. Week 1 on. Every game matters. Philadelphia crushed Atlanta in Week 1. I remember watching that game in Atlanta. And Philadelphia won that game. They're 8-7. Atlanta 7-8. But hey, they are still alive. The Falcons still have a shot. Maybe, just maybe, they'll get in the playoffs. The Bengals handed it to the Ravens. I got to give Josh Johnson credit. Lamar Jackson still got the ankle injury. Then he got Tyler Huntley, gets put on the COVID protocols list. And he got Josh Johnson, who comes in there, does all he can. I mean, he's 28 for 40, 304, a couple touchdowns and a pick, and a passer rating of 98, a QBR of 71. Josh Johnson, man, respect. He did all he could do. But I'm telling you, this is what's going to get the Ravens beat. If they get to the playoffs, that secondary, man, is just falling apart. I mean, you got practice squad guys out there. That's going to be the downfall of the Ravens this season. There's only, we hear next man up a lot in sports. There's only so many men you can have step up. And for the Ravens, they've run out of guys. And so that's going to be their downfall, but not taking any credit away whatsoever from Joe Burrow. Yeah, all he did was throw for 525 yards, go 37 for 46, 4 touchdowns, a QBR of 89, and a passer rating of 143. Best quarterback performance, and Dak was amazing, but best quarterback performance of any quarterback this weekend. My Lord, Joe Burrow, man. Holy cow. You got T. Higgins, who's got almost 200 yards receiving, a couple touchdowns. You got Jamar Chase having over 125, Tyler Boyd at 85 and a touchdown. I mean, man, all of a sudden, I got to give my dad credit because my dad said the Bengals were going to be the sleeper team in the league. I didn't buy it, but hey, they're 9-6. They're first in the AFC North as the rest of the division is falling apart. I don't know. Cincinnati may win a playoff game. They just very well may win a playoff game. John just says, Joe is that guy. You darn right he is. Listen, I was a Joe Burrow skeptic coming out of LSU. I sound like an idiot now, man. He is special. He is outstanding. The Rams beat the Vikings 30-23, led by defense and led by special teams. Matt Stafford did not play particularly well. He threw 3 picks, had a passer rating of 46. But this is why Matt Stafford went to the Rams. And this is why the Rams made this deal. Is they're like, look, he's not perfect. He's going to have games where he doesn't play well. But what the Rams have the luxury of having is they have guys like Sony Michel, guys who could run the football. We all know what Cooper Kupp represents, man. He's the offensive player of the year. And then defensively, they can get turnovers. And then on special teams, they had a punt return for a touchdown. So this is what makes the Rams scary. Matt Stafford can play horrible on the road against a Minnesota team that's respectable. It's not, they may make the playoffs, they may not. They're a fringe playoff team, but you respect Minnesota. You can't just mail it in. And the Rams, a bad game by the quarterback, and they still won by 7 on the road. I thought that was one of the more impressive wins of the day. You had, I talked about Buffalo and New England. And the New York Jets won a game. They won was this 4th game of the year? Yeah, 4th game of the year against the Jacksonville Jaguars. They won it by a score of 26-21. You had Zach Wilson, who ran for, 89 yards? No, was it 89? No, 91. I'm sorry, 91 yards by Zach Wilson, including that long run for a touchdown from 52 yards out to help the Jets beat the Jaguars. Jacksonville, man. Whew. Holy cow, they are bad. I'll tell you. Trevor Lawrence, I hope they get this guy. I hope they get him a head coach who can help him develop into the special talent he's capable of being. Because as of right now, man, it's looking bleak for the Jaguars. I mean, that is a horrendous roster. Horrendous roster. The Jets isn't great, but as I was talking to a buddy of mine over the phone talking about the Jets, they're young. That's the Jets' biggest issue. Their head coach is young. Their quarterback is young. Their skill position players, offensive linemen, defensive players are young. So you got to give this time. I'm not big on Zach Wilson. I'm not sure if he'll work in the NFL. I didn't like what he said last week about the Jets' offensive struggles. Kind of sort of a blasé answer. But they won yesterday. They hurt their draft position, but they won yesterday at home. They got 2 games left against the Bucs and against Buffalo. They're going to lose both of those, but 4-win season is about where I had the Jets. So we'll see where they go from here, at least in the offseason. The Eagles dominated the Giants 34-10, and 31 of those 34 points came in the second half. They ran the ball all over New York. Joe Judge reportedly is going to come back next year as the head coach of the Giants. I'm in favor of that decision. Get the Giants a franchise quarterback, and let's see what he can do. I mean, Daniel Jones is not it. Of course, he's been out. He's been shut down for the season with the neck injury. Mike Glennon, man, how is this guy still in the NFL? I'm serious. He's abysmal. He is abysmal. He's won 1 game since like 2015 or whatever it was. He's horrible. And Jake Fromm comes in. He doesn't look much better. I mean, the Giants need to find themselves a quarterback. And then as for the Eagles, what do you know? They're the 7 seed. They're 8-7. They may make the playoffs. For the Philadelphia Eagles, they play Washington next week. I'll give them the edge, even though they're on the road, although Washington could pull that one out. I think Washington's spirit has kind of been broken over the last few weeks of this 3-game losing streak. But for Philadelphia, their season's probably going to come down to that last game against my Cowboys at home. So We'll see. Dallas will still have hopefully still have a ton to play for as far as maybe getting that number 1 seed. For Philadelphia, they'll have everything to play for, just getting in the playoffs, which will be important to them. And they've been one of the surprise teams to me of 2021. I mean, credit to Jalen Hurts, Nick Sirianni. What I'll give Nick Sirianni respect about is this. I wasn't big on the hire. I was like, who is this guy? But Nick Sirianni, he has helped the Eagles establish a culture, an identity. Urban Meyer couldn't establish a culture in Jacksonville. Robert Saleh, has he established the culture in New York? But Dan Campbell, Lions won 2 games. They got an identity. They got a culture. Not sure if it's a winning one, but they got one. The Eagles, you look at this team and feels like a little bit of an indictment on Doug Peterson. I'm just saying. But Nick Sirianni, maybe his name's in the running for Coach of the Year. Who knows? Eagles have been up and down, up and down, up and down, and with 2 games to go, they got as realistic a shot as anybody to get in the playoffs, and I'll give them a lot of credit. I hate the Eagles. In a football context, I despise the Philadelphia Eagles, and I hope we deny them a shot at the playoffs in 2 weeks. But they're very much alive for a playoff spot, and give them credit. Tampa Bay knocked out Carolina 32-6. Cam was awful. Sam Darnold was awful. Tom Brady took care of business. Keyshawn Vaughn had a big game in for the injured Leonard Fournette. Tampa Bay did what they were supposed to do. I picked the Panthers as my upset of the week. That looks horrible. And now they lost by 26. But hey, I got to pick an upset every week, except for the playoffs. Upset of the week will be retired during the playoffs, just so you guys know. But Tampa Bay did what they were supposed to do. And hey, they're the 4 seed, but they still have a chance to get up to that 1 seed. But that loss to New Orleans really hurt them. Texans, in the surprising outcome of the day, crushed the Chargers 41-29. Justin Herbert didn't play well. To his defense, they were missing Mike Williams, Austin Eckler, Joey Bosa, Corey Linsley, among others, to COVID. I think 13 players are on the COVID list for the Chargers, so they're dealing with a little bit of an outbreak. For them, it's kind of a stay alive. The Chargers' playoff hopes are up in the air right now. Houston's is not. Houston had nothing to lose, and they took care of business, and they won the game. They've been playing a little better as of late. David Culley, I felt bad for him. I feel like he's been put in a tough position. But hey, as for the Houston Texans, they've actually equaled their win total from last year, which was 4. But hey, you'll take it. Bears upset Seattle 25-24. Nick Foles started, not Justin Fields, and they won on a wild 2-point conversion. Seattle has now been knocked out of the playoffs and of course we knew this weeks ago, but first losing season in Russell Wilson's NFL career. They're 5-10. It's the first time Pete Carroll's lost 10 games in the NFL, in a season in the NFL, since his first year as a head coach back in the 90s. Seattle's just a mess. Their defense is bad. They played in a snowy tundra in Seattle yesterday, so I understand, but man, they got some work to do on that roster, on the coaching staff, and Russell Wilson's heart just isn't in Seattle right now. I think he's going to move on. If he was mad about last year after they won the division after a 12-4 record, how do you think he feels this year at 5-10 and your season's basically over? He's not happy. I can tell you that. And finally, the Raiders won 17-13 over the Broncos. Derek Carr. I love Derek Carr. I love this guy. The Raiders, with all the crap they dealt with this year, with John Gruden to Henry Ruggs to Damon Arnett, they're 8-7 with a chance to still make the playoffs. This is why I love Derek Carr. He deals with utter chaos, keeps the Raiders in it, and keeps them within striking distance of a playoff appearance. Now, the Raiders' remaining schedule, they got the Colts and the Chargers. So I don't think they'll get in, but they needed that one yesterday at home over a solid Denver team with Drew Lock at quarterback. And the Raiders won a big one, and that win actually clinched the division for my Dallas Cowboys. So thank you very much, Raiders. Still haven't forgiven y'all for that win on Thanksgiving. That's still haunts me. But Kansas City finally won 36-10 over Pittsburgh. Pittsburgh's offense looked horrible. Kansas City's looked unstoppable. They ran the ball well. That's the thing for Kansas City. I remember talking about this last year. Up until that Super Bowl when they lost to Tampa, they were running the ball very effectively. Very effectively. And so with the defense that they have, this is the best defense by far that Patrick Mahomes has ever had in the NFL. Heck, probably the best defense he's had in the NFL and college. Those defenses at Texas Tech were abysmal. But he's got the great defense. We all know about the weapons. They're missing Travis Kelce. They're missing the best tight end in football, and they put up 36 points on a great Steelers defense. look out. We thought Kansas City was dead in the water 7 games in. Nah, they're back. They're back. They're probably the best team in the NFL as it stands right now. Seriously. I don't know. I'll give Buffalo a puncher's chance, but they can't run the football. And they did yesterday, but I need to see it on a more consistent basis. Buffalo is my pick to represent the AFC in Super Bowl 56. Right now, I'm leaning towards Kansas City. I'll give Buffalo a shot because they have Josh Allen and a great defense and a great coach in Sean McDermott. But I don't know, man. I don't know if they can stop the firepower. It's like that song, what is it, Any Given Sunday, You Can't Stop the Rain. You can't stop the rain right now if you're anybody playing Kansas City. This team is on a roll. They're going to get a first-round bye unless something crazy happens and Tennessee gets it. But they're going to get the first-round bye. Andy Reid, we know what he is off buys. Look the flip out for the Kansas City Chiefs. They are back. They are very much back. All right, Monday Night Football tonight. We've got a huge one between 2 7-7 teams fighting for playoff positioning. You've got the Miami Dolphins taking on the New Orleans Saints. Now, for New Orleans, they are starting their 4th quarterback of the season. Jameis Winston was their guy. Then he got hurt. They go with Trevor Siemian. He's horrible. Then they go to Taysom Hill. Now he's got COVID. And so you're starting a rookie in Ian Book, who was a solid guy, not great, but solid at Notre Dame while he was in college. Started that playoff game when they lost to Alabama in the college football playoff last year. For the Saints, it comes down to this. What will they give you defensively? And more times than not, it's greatness. They held Tom Brady and that loaded Bucs offense to a goose egg. Not a single point given up on the road. The problem is their offense isn't great. They beat Tampa, but they scored 9 points. They didn't score a touchdown. And so I think this will be the 2nd straight week. Sorry, Saints fans. Sorry to Saints 101 who comes in the comments section occasionally here or there. But I think it's more the same. I don't see any touchdowns being scored by that New Orleans offense. I get Sean Payton's back, and that's great. Glad he's back from COVID. But you've got a rookie, 4th-string guy, really a practice squad level player. Maybe it'll be the fact that the Dolphins don't have film on Ian Book. Maybe that'll help the Saints. But with that Miami defense, Tua will play efficient football. I think the Saints defense will keep them in it, but Miami will pull away at the end. They'll go to 8-7, win their 7th consecutive game of the season, and they will be, as it stands, if they win this game, they'll be in the playoffs as the 7th seed. Unbelievable job by Tua, by Brian Flores. It's a big one for both teams. Both teams fighting to get in the playoffs. I think Miami wins it tonight. By the way, the spread is Miami -3 on the road in New Orleans. That's not the same Superdome as it was in the Drew Brees era. It's just not. It's loud, but it's not the same as it was in the Drew Brees era. So I think Miami wins this game tonight, 23-12 to cap off Week 16 and lead us into a wild final 2 weeks of the season. Week 17 coming up next weekend, and I can't wait. We got the college football playoff, although Georgia's dealing with some COVID issues. I hate this rule, but the game could basically be canceled and forfeited in favor of Michigan, and no Michigan-Georgia game is even played. I think that's a terrible rule. I think they should postpone the game until Georgia gets right COVID-wise and do that. If you got to postpone the national championship, then postpone the national championship. I don't care. You got to get these 2 playoff games played. You have to. So Thursday, long as Georgia's COVID issues are resolved, I'm going to predict the college football playoff games. And again, we got a couple shows the rest of 2021. I'll have a New Year's Eve special that will air. I'm not sure what time yet. I'll let y'all know on social media. You can see down there my social media platforms. But I'll let you guys know when that New Year's Eve special will air. Talking about the best sports moments of 2021. The best athletes, moments, games, you name it. We got it as far as the best of 2021. So stay tuned for that. And until next time, until Thursday, that is all the time we have for today's show. Be sure to catch us on Thursday at 6 p.m. Eastern, 3 p.m. Pacific time. Facebook Live, YouTube, Twitter, same places as always. And if you've been listening to the Carving It Up podcast, we appreciate that. You've been listening on on Spotify, iHeartRadio, Google Podcasts, Anchor, as well as wherever you get your podcasts. So have a great week, everybody. Stay safe out there. Stay away from COVID. Get your vaccine. Get your boosters. And have a blessed week. God bless y'all. Peace out.